Now time for some examples. Example 1. Point G is the centroid. Okay, so since this is centroid, go back to your vocabulary. That means this is a medians problem. So BD is 21. BD is 21. The whole thing is 21. So if you go back to the little cheat sheet that I gave you for medians and centroids, we can figure out BG because we know that 2/3 BG, so BG would be this part. BG is the longer part of this median, so I'm gonna just use the little thing that I gave you guys. The long side is gonna be 2/3 times the whole thing. So that would be, let's see, 2/3 times the whole thing, which is 21. Okay, so if you just type this into your calculator, if you were not able to do that in your head, just open up a document, doesn't really matter. Okay, so I'm going to do 2/3, and I'm not using NSolve because this is not an equation, guys. Calm down. All right, so 2/3 times 21, and then we get 14. Okay, so that's going to be 14. So BG is 14, and that's how we do that. And then GD, you can do that. I mean, there are a bunch of different ways you can do that, but you could also be like, okay, well, the short side is 1/3 times the whole thing. Okay, so that would be 1/3 times 21, which equals 7. And you can do the same thing on your calculator. All right, so again, GD would be the shorter part of the median. So that's how you use those rules that I gave you guys. All right, part B says FG equals 2x plus 6 and GA equals 6x minus 20. Find the following. Okay, so I'm going to erase this because that's in my way. So FG, okay, so that's the short side. And then GA, that's the long side, or the long part, I should say. Okay, so I'm going to use the space over here. All right, so the relationship between long and short, we know that long equals 2 times the short side. So we're going to just start with that. So the long side was 6x minus 20. The short side was, again, don't forget you have to multiply it by 2, but the short side was 2x plus 6. All right, so I'm just going to clean that up a bit. Distribute that to 4x plus 12. Okay, now we can, actually, you know what? I'm sorry. Let me just keep this simple. All right, so if you don't want to solve it, you can use NSolve. So let's go ahead and so we had, I was trying to share my screen, 6x minus 20. Oops, now I do need NSolve for this one because we're solving this equation. And don't forget comma x, enter. All right, so we get 16. So x equals 16. Okay, so now that we figured out x, we should be able to figure out all the others. So FG was 2x plus 6. So that's going to be 2 times 16 plus 6. So you can do that on your calculator. 2 times 16 plus 6, and that'll give you 38. And then for GA, we have 6 times 16 minus 20. And we get 76. And then AF would be, okay, so if you look, AF is the whole thing. So AG or GA was 76. GF or FG, whatever, it doesn't matter how you say it, was 38. So to get the whole thing, you have to add it together. So that's going to be 76 plus 38. So I'm just trying to model for you guys how to use your calculator because y'all act like y'all don't know how to use a calculator when I call on you in class. So we get 114. Okay? So we've done all that they asked us to do and put a little box around all of these, and we're going to move it right along. Example 2. Point A is the in-center. Okay, that vocabulary word tells me these are angle bisectors. Okay, so we're going to use our angle bisector cheat sheet or rules or whatever you want to call it. So the good thing about angle bisector is it's always going to be part equals part, and so that'll be nice and easy for us. So this one's talking about AB and AD. So again, part equals part. They're both congruent to each other. So it's going to be a really easy problem. 2x plus 10 equals 6x minus 18. You just set them equal to each other. All right, so I get 7. Double check that. Okay, and now we are here. So AB, let me put the 7 there, and then we have 2 times 7 plus 10 for AB. So 2 times 7 is 14 plus 10 is 24. I'm not going to use the calculator for that. That was an easy one. Then we have 6 times 7, minus 18. Okay, so that'd be 42 minus 18. That'll be 24. All right, and then to find AC, I can't share my screen with this. Dang it, I keep trying. It's not letting me. All right, so to find AC is right here, and it's going to be the same thing. So it's still 24. So there you go. All right, moving on to number 3. All right, so now we're talking about circumcenter. All right, so circumcenter lets me know that this is a perpendicular bisector problem. So perpendicular bisector. All right, so we're going to use our perpendicular bisector notes. All right, so this is another easy one. All of these are going to be part equals part problems. So we have AC, which is right here, and AB, which is right here. And again, part equals part because they're both congruent to each other. So let's set it up. 25x minus 25 equals 15x plus 40. And we get 6.5, it looks like. Make sure I type that in correctly. I always like to go back and check. Okay, that's good. 6.5 is our x. All right, so now we're going to plug it in. So 25 times 6.5 minus 25. All right, we get 137.5. And for AD should be the same, but let me check to make sure I did it correctly first by doing this one. Oops, did I put this in the wrong spot? I surely did. Sorry about that. I just went on autopilot. So this is actually AC, my bad, guys. 25x minus 25 was AC. AB was 15x plus 40. And that's a 101.5. Okay, so I made a mistake, so now I got to figure out where I made that mistake. So let me double check to make sure I wrote everything correctly. 25x minus 25, 15x plus 40. Let me make sure I typed it in correctly. 25x minus 25, 15x plus 40. Yep. There it is. All right, there was my mistake. I don't know if you can see it, but the third line from the bottom, I put 6.5 plus 4 instead of plus 40. All right, and that would be 137.5 again. So there you go, 137.5. Okay, so I'm going to keep this mistake. I'm not going to edit it out so that you guys can kind of get a sense of what you can do if that happens to you. All right. And again, AD is congruent to the other parts. AD is right here, and it's congruent to the other two, so it should also be the same. All right, number 4, find the measurement of the altitude of the triangle. Okay, so this one, altitude is going to be, what do you call it? It could possibly be Pythagorean theorem. It could be angle equals 90. It could be part plus part equals whole. So it says to find the altitude. And since it's talking about this, don't forget that's the altitude. Since it's talking about the altitude, okay, we can see that since there is a right angle here, it broke up this whole triangle into 2 right triangles. So you see that left side is a right triangle. So that means this is side C. Don't forget the hypotenuse, or C, is going to be across from the right angle. It's the longest side. And then I always make the bottom B, just so it's easier to remember, so that A can be altitude. And then I'm just going to use Pythagorean theorem. Okay, so altitude, you can always use, well, not always, you can sometimes use Pythagorean theorem. All right, so we don't know A. We do know B is 8 and C is 17. So since I don't know one of the legs, I'm going to have to subtract. So to figure out what that leg is equal to, I'm going to take the square root of 17 squared and subtract 8 squared from it. Okay. So we get 18.78, but instead of writing 18.7, guys, that rounds up to 18.8. I think we've forgotten how to round. If we ever knew, child, I don't know. All right, so the altitude is 18.8. Let me double check that, make sure I wrote it down correctly. Yes. All right, 18.8. Number 5. A is a point on DG. So A is on DG. We see DG is here, and here's point A, which is the angle bisector of BDF. So that's this angle here. Boom, boom. All right, I'll keep it there. All right, AC, okay. So don't forget, angle bisector problems are always going to be part equals part. So it says AC and AE. Okay, and those two have to be congruent because, again, part equals part. So we got 23x minus 16 equals 20x plus 17. And we're going to use our calculator. What was it? 16 equals... We get 11 for x. And we're just going to plug it in as usual. So 23 times 11 minus 16. We get 237. And then for 20 times 11 plus 17, that'll be, yeah, that'll still be 237. All right. I'll type it in just to be sure. See, 237. All right, so we're good. We did it correctly because these were supposed to be congruent. Remember, part equals part, and they were equal to each other. Last one. All right, CD is the altitude, which means this is 90 degrees. So don't forget, altitude means 90 degrees. Fine, so don't forget, altitude is for perpendicular bisectors, which means they're 90 degrees. Okay, we need to find x if the measure of angle CDB, so that's this angle right here that I've outlined, CDB, is 6x plus 18. All right, so this is an angles problem. If you look on your cheat sheet, this is the angles problem. When you have an angles problem, you need to do the angle equals 90 degrees equation. So that's going to be 6x plus 18 equals 90 degrees. Yes, and then you just solve it from there. 6x plus 18. And we get 12. Okay, and it just said that we needed to find x, so I'm gonna put a box around it, although I should be checking my work, so let me plug it in. Plus 18, so that'd be 72 plus 18, which equals 90. So yeah, we did that right.